All right. Joining us now, Larry the lawyer. And in Exeter, New Hampshire, there is a controversy today over students who attended the prom who were their hands were marked with a Sharpie or such because they had been unvaccinated. And Larry reached out earlier and said he had some thoughts on this because we were discussing the legality of it. Larry, good morning. How are you, by the way?
I'm good. I was great, and now you put me following that act. I mean, what am I supposed to do? It's like I'm coming out of the NBA and I'm replacing Michael Jordan after that poop talk.
I know, Spaz. You have an infinite amount of experience with Spaz and his idiosyncrasies.
Yes, indeed.
I'd like to thank Larry for about a year ago when I reached out to him in a panic about a real estate problem I had because I got investigated on something. Thank you for the advice, buddy. He did say, though,
you can't just...
We raised you right up, didn't we, buddy?
I got investigated on something. You can't just...
Here's the best part. He goes, don't talk to the investigator. I go, well, I already went there and met with the guy and told him everything. And I was like, what?
The next guy said, well, why are you calling me, you knucklehead?
So, Larry, some parents are upset about this with regard to their kids. Is this something that you expect is going to happen more frequently because of the situation with vaccinations?
So, I mean, yes. First and foremost, yes. I do think it's going to happen more frequently. I don't have a problem with this the way that some other people do. I don't think this is, in line with the Scarlet Letter. I think this is a choice that kids were given. It's certainly a lot better, I think, than the choice that most Massachusetts students have been given, which is don't have a prom for the second year in a row. And if you're going to have it for the seniors after school's done so that they can't infect anybody here. And if you do have it in mass, social distancing, masks, no dancing, no singing, no nothing. So it's really not a prom here. New Hampshire, on the other hand, what they said is if you want to go to the prom, there's two classifications. You have been vaccinated, which you can do a little bit more, and you haven't been vaccinated, so you have to follow those protocols. They had the prom. These kids knew going into the prom that they had an option: stay home or get vaccinated, or don't get vaccinated, and you're going to have a mark on your hand so people can figure out, and those people being the administrators, who's who, and try to keep the rest of the kids safe. And I'll say this, Greg, it's really not any different than when you go to a bar or a club and they put a wristband or they mark your hand with an X if you're not 21. There has to be a way to do it. Is that the best way? I don't know. I mean, it works. Are there other ways to do it? Maybe.
But aren't you shaming people based on a medical choice that they've made? I mean, we don't generally do that in this country, do we?
Well, no, but you have a choice. This is the difference. This isn't a HIPAA violation because it's not anybody giving out their medical records. And if somebody says to themselves, hey, I don't want to be shamed, I don't want to be embarrassed, they do have a choice here. And the choice is don't go to the prom or get vaccinated. Now, I'm not advocating for either of those things. I have my own personal opinions on that stuff, but there is a choice, Greg, and the choice is to don't go to the prom. The other thing that you have to understand is New Hampshire recently, April and May, they had a spike in children under the age of 19 with the vaccine. So this is an age group that has been vulnerable. They're the last to have the option to get vaccinated. So when you look at all those things in total, I think they were just trying to make sure that these kids stayed as healthy as they could. I don't have an issue with it. And you know me, I usually have an issue with all of this stuff. But they did have a choice. The choice was stay home and not go to the prom or go to the prom, and these are your two other options.
So, Larry, do you think they were basically doing it on the honor system? Because, my kid was in a similar situation where, they asked him if he's been vaccinated, right? So what if he just says, yeah, I was vaccinated, rather than, tell the truth and say, I hadn't been vaccinated yet? And are they going to then say, well, we want to see your vaccination? Is because you brought up HIPAA, right? Couldn't I, as a parent, I go, wait a second, you can't ask my kid whether or not they've been vaccinated and then put a mark on their hand?
Well, let me say this, Wiggy. As you know, they already do that in Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and almost every other state in the country when it comes to measles vaccinations, chickenpox, polio. you have to provide your medical records to your school once a year with your vaccination charts. So they already do that. This is just the next extension of that.
Right, but if let's say if I was a non-vax type of parent, wouldn't there be like some type of case for me to even fight that if I didn't want to have my children vaccinated? If I hired a good lawyer, don't you think there would be some type of case that I would be able to win on the fact that I don't have to give a school permission to see my child's medical records?
So the answer is you can definitely bring that case. You're going to need a great attorney, somebody that can defy the odds, because this has been litigated in the past when it comes to some of the other vaccines that we just talked about. So the school board has the right, public health has the right to make sure that students stay healthy. And that's one of the ways that has become accepted. Now, you can argue that over the last 30 or 40 or 50 years, your parents and their parents gave away some of these rights, by acquiescing and not filing those lawsuits. But there's a public health benefit here. You can also argue that this doesn't rise to the level of a chicken pox or a measles, but, the statistics, the way that they keep those statistics probably go against you. So, and the last point on that, Wiggy, is, again, you don't have to send your child to a public school. You have other options. Now I'm not going to suggest that everybody has the option to send their kid to private school, because that costs money. And there are people that aren't in that position. A lot of people that aren't in that position. But the other position is you could homeschool your children. So, there are options, and I don't suggest that everybody has those options available to them. But you have to weigh this on the public health concerns as well. And vaccines are one of those things. And look, here's the other thing. The United States federal government just put out through the executive office of whoever handles this crap that employers can mandate that you get vaccinated, and they can terminate you if you don't. We know that there was a big hospital in Houston that had 178 health workers that were terminated because they wouldn't get the vaccine. So, it's really no different. You don't have to like it. A lot of people don't like it, and a lot of people are anti-vaxxers. I mean, I'm skeptical about vaccines, but you do your research and you try to make the best decision that you can. I mean, I have children, and, that's a decision that they and I have to come together and have a conversation with their primary care physician, do the research, and, make the decision that I personally feel is best for my kids.
And you think that, Larry, you think that'll hold up, going forward court-wise, when you look at whether it's the hospital that you're talking about in Texas, or there's a couple airlines that are requiring that their employees be vaccinated. So you think that when that is challenged, that'll hold up, and a place that you work at can demand that you get vaccinated or that you're fired?
100%.
Really?
I don't even question. Now, here's another point of this story, right? So you look at Florida, you look at the cruise line industry. The cruise line were the first travel industry to come out and say, you're not getting on our boat without showing a vax passport.
Right.
And what did Florida do? Governor DeSantis came out and said, okay, that's your policy. That's fine. But every time you ask somebody for a vaccine card, it's a $5,000 fine. The cruise lines just reversed that decision yesterday or the day before.
Right.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, you elect politicians based on what their platform is, or at least that's the way it used to be, right? And you have certain states in the United States of America that the politicians that have been elected by the people, and the mandate has been, we're not interested in these vax cards. We're not interested in mandatory vaccines. So you do have places in the United States that you can go to and not have to worry about that. So that's another choice that you have. But as far as a private employer, all the guidance that I have read, and it's been everything, has stated very clearly that an employer can, in fact, mandate that.
Wow.
It's crazy. Right. What's next? They're going to be like, we need to see your sexual history because of public health concerns. We want to make sure you're not drinking out of the same water fountain.
Your sexual history of the wigs.
No, but I mean, couldn't they say that though, right? Because I mean, you could pass, STDs through sharing a cup.
Yeah, there's a big section in Wiggy's sexual history that says Vikings boat cruise.
Poor kids.
Greg,
I mean, but so yeah, in the case of Wiggy's son, they almost weren't going to allow him to go to the prom because he hadn't been vaccinated.
Let him in.
And that's the way this is going forward. You're guessing, right, Larry?
Yeah, and the other interesting thing is there was a group of seniors that decided, hey, you know what, school won't let us do it. We're going to do our own prom. There are solutions to problems. You just have to use your brain and think outside the box. If this is really what the student body's against, you have your own prom. Rent out your own hall and work out your rules with them. But look, the other part of this is there are still people that are dying of this virus. Whether you want to believe that or not, it's on the death certificates. And, I actually had a family member that passed 2 days ago of the virus. And, so it does happen. So, you have to balance the public health interest with your privacy rights and your right to make the decisions as to what you do and don't want to put in your body. Nobody's saying you have to get vaccinated to go to the prom. What they're saying is that you have three choices. Like I said, you don't have to go to the prom, which, prom is not an absolute guaranteed right in life. It's not a constitutionally protected thing. If you don't want to go to the prom, you don't go to the prom. If you don't want to have an X put on your hand that you're not vaxxed, don't go to the prom. If you don't want to miss the prom and you don't want to have a black X put on your wrist, then go get vaccinated. Those are the options. So it's not.
What
like
about Larry? I think we really should have a law that makes every guy be able to have a date if they want one.
We should have a lot of laws, I guess, right?
But it's all on a system, though, right, Larry? So when you go to the prom, you could just be like, yeah, I'm vaccinated. And that's it.
Yeah, but, and then the problem is if you go to the prom and you tell them that you've been vaccinated and it turns out that you actually get COVID and you spread it to 25 kids and, 14 adults and then 3 grandparents, one who dies, that's the kind of karma that I don't think you want your kids walking around with. And that's what happens, it's really a double-edged sword here. You're walking on a razor.
All right, Larry the lawyer. Nice to talk to you.
Hey,
Good
Greg,
stuff.
Yes.
Before I go away, two shameless plugs.
Yes,
my youngest child entered her teenage years today, so I just wanted to say happy birthday to my daughter Alice, who turns 13 today.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Gigi Army with 2 Y's. If anybody wants to wish her a happy birthday on Instagram, I'm sure she'd love it. And the second thing is we just totally redesigned our armyandroche.com website. So any of you listeners, take a look. Let us know what you think. We'd love some feedback on that.
All right, Larry the lawyer. Great to talk to you. We'll talk to you soon.